Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is Wednesday. What day is that, John?
Hump Day.
Hump Day, Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. And this is the A block where we do the John Combest top three. But John, I have to tell you, I have a new major sponsor that wanted to have a premium spot before you did your top three, because everybody in the state knows John does his top three at the top of the hour, so everybody's got their ears peeled and listening to the BJ Show right at the top of the hour. So this advertiser wanted a premium spot. Do you mind? It's just 25 seconds. Do you mind, John?
Yes, I'm sure it's a senior memory aid. Go ahead, Brad.
No, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Positivity, productivity, and prosperity, God Squad. Positivity, productivity, and prosperity, God Squad.
The 3 Ps: positivity, productivity, and prosperity. God Squad. GodSquad.cloud.
It's our new major advertiser, God Squad. They've had some donations recently, and they bought a big advertising package here on Westplex Talk.
I love that, Brad. If people are confused, they should go to C Block for yesterday, which was February 3rd, 2026. Brad, I loved your description of God Squad, and I can't wait to see what your March shiny object is going to be.
Okay, that is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. I spell it because you need to put in johncombest.com into your browser, to your smartphone, your tablet, whatever you're using, and you will bring up this site that looks something like a website that somebody put up in 1999, because it's done in web version. Which version, John?
0.0.
But the reason for that is he doesn't really want to slow down your computer with graphics and videos and porn pictures and stuff like that. He wants to get you the most up-to-date information in the state of Missouri. It's a bunch of links. It's like the Drudge Report, when the Drudge Report used to be good, but it's all just links. And it has sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100. Sometimes John has 10,000 links on one of his pages. But how do you navigate that? If you're ADD like me, you're going to go like, I'm looking for a shiny object. I don't see one. So what we do is we bring in this guy right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he counts down the top three. And we start with...
In third place,
He fished good old Okeechobee, Kissimmee and Rodman Poe, Georgia's Lake Lanier, West Point and Seminole. He loves Lake of the Ozarks. He loves Table Rock, Big Creek, and the Bourbeuse River. He ain't gonna ever stop. If you were paging through WTBS shows back in the late 80s, early 90s, Brad, you probably went to your Syncom cable box on top of your television. You're not a big fishing guy, but you probably heard a fishing song by the Roland Martin Show. Not to be confused with the Roland Martin big liberal on national television. You say, John, why are you talking about fishing in the top three? Well, a lot of people in our area go fishing at the old Bourbeuse River. Does that sound familiar to you, Brad?
I thought it was Bourbeuse.
You could say Bourbeuse. I always pronounced it as a kid as Bourbeuse. Let's say Bourbeuse, Brad. You're more of a expert on topographical regions than I am, and I've never gone fishing at the Bourbeuse River. So let's call it the Bourbeuse River. John, why are you talking about the Bourbeuse River? A headline from the Washington Missourian. New Big Creek Bridge planned. You say, okay, John, I know you and Brad are trying to keep it a little bit more local in 2026, but a bridge sounds pretty boring. Au contraire, the hook of the story is not just that Franklin County is seeking to build a new bridge southwest of Leslie. I'm going to explain where this is, Brad, and take a little break from your little Debbie because I want to know if you know exactly where this is. It's a new bridge on Big Creek Road. And apparently Big Creek Road now drivers over Big Creek now use a low water crossing, which would be replaced by a standard bridge. Again, Brad, so do you know where this is? Mr. Folsom explains that it's between Antioch Road. It connects Antioch Road and Shotwell Road. Do you have any idea where that is?
If I'm not mistaken, it's not that far off of Highway 50. Would that be about right?
Yeah, he does. I believe he does say Highway 50 in this piece.
Yeah,
let me scroll through here. Okay, yeah, and I knew that you would know this river. Hey, if you know how to pronounce the Bourbeuse River, then you clearly are going to know where this is located. Again, why is this important? Well, they're not just trying to scrape together a few funds. They're going to go hat in hand to the East-West Gateway Council of Governments and try to get some funding through there. And to add an additional layer to this, they're going to eventually lean in close so I can tell you, Brad.
I'm leaning
They're
in.
going to have to ask the state for a little bit of money, too. So if you're one of the federal elected officials and staffers who listens to our show, or you're one of the elected officials in Franklin County in the state legislature who listen to our show, just be advised that the folks in Franklin County are going to be coming to you hat in hand. If you're on the federal level, they're going to say, hey, Senator Schmidt, Hawley, maybe Bob Onder, maybe Ann Wagner, maybe the whole delegation. Can we have a little money for our bridge here? I bet you they're going to be going to State Rep John Simmons from Washington and asking him the same thing too, Brad. So the other piece of this that you'll really enjoy is that even after Franklin County secures this funding from the state and also from the feds, the bridge is not expected to be built for about 4 years. So the wheels of funding turn very slowly, and it will lead to a new bridge and maybe some folks from around the region looking to hook a few smallmouth bass. I guess it wouldn't be smallmouth. It'd be like spotted bass or maybe some largemouth, maybe some crappie, some catfish. Maybe they'll be able to drive on that bridge too, Brad.
John, if I'm not mistaken, this story, where was this off the Washington Missourian?
It is, yeah.
Did you read the entire story? Did you read every single paragraph?
Oh, Brad, let me guess. There's a fun fact here about Dave Schatz says you got to bring in your receipt.
That's right. Dave Schatz says that if you bring in your receipt from Schnucks, now there's a Schnucks in Union as well as in Washington. If you bring in your receipt from Schnucks, every receipt that they get will get $1 toward this new bridge. And by the way, John, can I explain something? Some people who maybe are city slickers don't know what a low water bridge is. You know what a low water bridge is, right?
Yeah, well, let me guess. Well, you explain it to me.
Essentially, a low water bridge is like a spot. Sometimes it's like concrete that's poured in a creek, but the water actually flows over the top of the bridge. But
it's like a slab. Sorry to interrupt, but isn't it pretty much just like a slab of concrete?
Yeah, they pour. Sometimes it's like with rock and stuff like that, but most of them are like concrete where they just pour like a spot across the creek. And when they say low water bridge, it's passable when the water is low. When the water is high, it's impassable. So if you live on the other side of that creek and there's like a big rain, you can't get across the creek. You're
up a creek, in other words. You're literally up a creek if you don't have the bridge.
Either that or SOL, one of the two. But that's the deal. So if you drop your Schnucks receipt from either, matter of fact, I understand that they're going to give $1 for the Washington Schnucks receipt and $1.50 for the Union Schnucks receipt. If you drop those off to Dave Schatz' office, that'll help build that low water bridge so those people won't be kept out of their houses and farms and things like that when the rain rains real heavily.
That's the least Dave Schatz could do. Now, what about, I have a stack here of receipts from both national supermarkets and also Borrow-Barts.
Do you have any Bettendorf ones?
I don't have Bettendorf. That was a little before my time.
How about any
any
Kroger's? Have you been into Troy lately? There's still a Kroger.
I have not been to Troy lately.
There's a Kroger in Troy. I don't know if you knew that or not. But okay, are we ready for number 2?
Give it to me, Brad.
Up a notch to number 2.
Reporter from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Austin Hughley. I think he's probably, and if he's not the best reporter at the Post-Dispatch, the most thorough, the most dogged, I'd say he's in the top 3 for sure. A headline from Austin. He covers a lot of St. Louis city politics. St. Louis alderwoman seeks to block new ICE detention centers from the city. Now, as a learned man, you would ask me, John, I had no idea that ICE was considering St. Louis City to build some detention centers. And I'd say, Brad, they're not planning on that at all. Not in the least, as far as we know. But Alderwoman Alicia Saunier, she represents Tower Grove East, a bill filed by her and the Board of Aldermen / Alderwomen would impose a 5-year moratorium on city permits and approvals for detention facilities not run by the city. Austin notes that this bill echoes action taken last month in Kansas City, where city leaders approved a similar 5-year moratorium. And they said, we don't want your ICE facilities here in Kansas City. Now, the real life fallout from that, and shout out to my boy Tony Bateo from Kansas City, because he's been all over this for weeks, is that a lot of local political leaders, and you can read that as local Democrat leaders in Kansas City, have gotten national attention, national praise from the MS Now crowd and from the national progressive crowd. How brave, how bold of these urban leaders to say, ICE out. We crush ICE. We don't welcome ICE. So St. Louis, of course, probably looks to the west and says, hey, maybe we could get a little bit of attention here if we do the same thing. Now, I'm a assume positive intentions kind of guy. So let's assume that Alderwoman Saunier, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Saunier, let's hope that she is looking at this and saying, hey, we have some folks here in the city who might be less than legal status. We don't want them to feel intimidated, threatened by the fact that law enforcement is coming here and building a detention facility. Now, what may or may not surprise you is that Mayor Kara Spencer is lukewarm on this idea. Brad, set your little Debbie down for a second and riddle me this. Why would Kara Spencer, traditionally a pretty progressive Democrat, I think you could say, why would she not be enthused about a bill that would put a moratorium on ICE facilities?
You didn't say anything about my Mountain Dew. Hold on a minute.
There
Okay,
you go,
there
Brad.
we go.
A little chug-a-lug there in the morning.
I don't know. So in other words, she's essentially for the ICE detention facilities? Is that what she's saying?
Well, I think that would be inaccurate to say that she's for it. But Kara Spencer says, let me bring up her direct quote here. A spokesman for Kara Spencer said, so in other words, you're not going to put Kara out there in front of a live microphone or on a radio to say something controversial or where she might slip. So you have your spokesman go out there and do it. That way, if he messes up, he takes the heat. A spokesman for St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer said the city is not aware of any plans to open a detention facility here. But just this past weekend, when Kara was at a town hall forum, she was asked about it. And she said that starting a big confrontation with the Trump administration carries risk. Here's her quote. Calling attention to our city puts a big red target on our immigrant community and the organizations that serve them. In other words, St. Louis City, by the way, is trying to get a whole lot of tornado money, trying to maybe get a little bit more tornado money, maybe get a little bit of an extension on every deadline that the city habitually misses in their exquisite planning and execution. So Kara is saying here, hey, good idea, good intentions, but maybe let's not draw attention to ourselves as an enemy of this administration. Maybe we just kind of whistle past the graveyard and get our tornado money and have a Mountain Dew and a smile and sit down.
Well, there's another solution which, guys like me can come up with, which would solve two problems. The federal government.
Is that your idea of she comes in and she hires you guys, private people, to come in with trucks and clean up the tornado damage?
No. She can just go to Paul McKee and say, Mr. McKee, you've got all this property in North City. We'd like to buy it from you because we want to put in a super duper ICE detention facility, because that way the people would stop complaining about all the dilapidated homes in the North Side, which Paul McKee bought up and never did anything with. And they can just it could be like a regional. They can bring the illegals in from Kansas City and Chicago and Tulsa and Springfield, both Springfields, and even Chicago. Think about that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Is put them in a car and maybe a giant transit truck, send them down 55. And now that we think about it, Brad, there's no bad ideas in a brainstorm. I mean, you prove that wrong every day. But let's say, what if we got the Hoffmans involved? And if prisoners are really good, like if Jose mows the grass with perfection, he could go out to the Emmaus homes and stay out there for a few weeks.
No, they sold the Emmaus homes. They don't own those anymore. Somebody else bought them.
Oh, well, I bet they could work out a deal, Brad. Maybe they could trade some Oberweis dairy products for access to the Emmaus home.
Maybe they could give helicopter rides from their FBO right there at the Washington
Brad,
airport.
I shouldn't have got you started on the Hoffmans. I know what you're going to love, and that's our story number 1 today.
Well, hold on. First off, you're wrong about something. I haven't opened up my Little Debbie, so let me do that live here. Okay, now we can...
Hey, Brad, I thought of, by the way, you make a great point. Can I say something about ADD and your ADD? I want to compliment you here, Brad.
Go ahead.
You frequently point out, as you did yesterday, pardon me, when you were confusing Ben Brown with Ben Baker. That was a hit yesterday. You frequently point out, hey, I'm ADD. That's what you say. As a reminder to civilized people, ADD, or attention deficit disorder, properly called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, you cannot be ADD. There's no such thing as, Brad, when you say I'm ADD, you're literally saying I'm attention deficit disorder. It's like when knuckle-dragging morons say, I'm OCD. Oh, you are obsessive compulsive disorder? No. Brad, what you mean to say is, I have ADD. Now, in your case, you don't have ADD. You've never been diagnosed with it. We know you don't have it. And as often, people that say, I'm ADD, it's an excuse for not following through. It's an excuse to be absent-minded and having no focus. I'm not saying that's you at all, Brad. But a lot of the shiny objects crowd will come out and say, I'm ADD. It literally doesn't make sense. It's you saying, I'm attention deficit disorder. And we know you're not. So that's a compliment to you, Brad.
So when I say my blood type is AB positive, that means that that's not me, that's just my blood?
Correct, because if anybody's ever heard one of your rants about nonprofits, churches, the radio industry, big companies, anti-disruptors, they'll know that, Brad, you're anything but positive.
No. I am positive because you know why, John?
Why is that, Brad? I love that ditty. That's very. Listen. It's not one of Singo's best, but it's in the top 90%.
Prosperity, God Squad. Positivity, productivity, and prosperity, God Squad.
There you go, John. Positivity right there. And we move into number 1.
The number 1.
2 central characters in this story do not reside in our broadcast area, but that's okay. In 2024, we spent a lot of time talking about these 2 main characters. They have main character energy, both of them. And within the last couple months, they've gotten job updates. And one of them, pardon me, has a job update in the last 24 hours. We'll start further from home, and then we'll get closer to home. Yesterday, it was announced in Springfield, Missouri, that former governor candidate Crystal Quade has been named the new director of the Downtown Springfield Association, aka DSA. Now, Brad, that's not to be confused with DSLs, which is a requirement that you have for your women. DSA announced Quade will fill the role of executive director beginning February 17th. That's right after Valentine's Day. The organization announced yesterday, in a news release. The leadership post was held by a guy named Rusty Worley for 19 years. And here's a little bit of drama here. Downtown Springfield has seen several businesses close their doors in the last year. So you have a bunch of businesses closing up, leaving shop. Maybe Springfield's not in great shape. You have the dude that ran this group for 19 years resigning. Let's bring in Crystal Quade. And here's what the chair of the DSA board of directors said. Crystal brings a unique blend of leadership, vision, and a strong understanding of the challenges and opportunities facing downtown communities. So that's one story, one recent story about Crystal Quade. And, we referenced her the other day because you asked about an Ashley Awney a couple weeks ago. And I say an Ashley Awney will never run for governor. She saw what her friend Crystal Quade went through, and I don't think Ashley Awney will ever put herself through that. So that's one update. That's a very happy ending for Crystal Quade in Springfield. And I think most folks would say she would be perfectly suited to do that job. The second main character that we should discuss is Tishaura Jones, St. Louis's 47th mayor. According to Student Life newspaper, and you can find a link to that on johncombest.com today. According to Student Life, which is the student newspaper at Washington University here in St. Louis, Tishaura Jones reflected on her controversial mayoral term through a discussion held by the Center for the Study of Race, Ethnicity, and Equity. You know, Tishaura is now the inaugural, the first ever visiting distinguished fellow in residence. So Tishaura got a job at WashU. I believe, if I recall correctly, I don't have the story up, but she has a kind of a visiting gig at, I think it was Harvard. I want to say maybe it was Harvard, where she goes. It's a ceremonial thing. I don't think it involves any real work. It's an honor that you give people that you want to celebrate and uplift. But we have here two stories of women who suffered big defeats. Tishaura Jones here locally a year ago, and then Crystal Quade in November of 2024, going on to do productive things. I mean, certainly in the case of Crystal Quade, it's a productive thing. Now, I've seen from friends on social media, and particularly my dear friend of a quarter century, Greg Keller, has posted screenshots of some of Tishaura Jones' Facebook posts where Tishaura is pretty critical of Kara Spencer and the Kara Spencer administration. I think it's understandable. Tishaura's not even a year away from a big loss in a primary where the voters told her, I think your time is up. So Tishaura is probably still in that anger phase, maybe still in that a little bit petty phase, but I'm sure she'll get over it in a period of time and go on to actually help students at WashU and other places. So it's a feel-good story, Brad, and I think it just goes to show what I said in the pages of the Missouri Times back in 2021. You are not your stump speech. And if you're an elected official, you get wrapped up in constituents coming to you, and donors coming to you, and everybody wanting a piece of you. But you are not your electoral record. And just because these two women took significant losses in 2024 and 2025 does not mean that they're not going to go on and lead organizations. It doesn't mean that they don't have a lot to provide to their community.
John, going back, hold on a minute. Let me clear my throat. Going back to the Crystal Quade thing, the MBBA is going to miss her. I mean, that's what she was the head of.
And that stands for what, Brad?
The Missouri Billboard Association. They're really going to miss her because she was the director.
Oh. Yeah, that was a great. I thought you meant the Missouri Big Booty Admirers.
No, Missouri Billboard Association.
Which I am a founding member. Yeah, and Brad, what happened with the Crystal Quade billboard?
They put the billboard up and they spelled her name wrong.
It was terrific. And big shout out to our friend Scott Fawn, because Crystal had chosen, and her campaign had chosen, to not acknowledge it after the third party corrected it. And then Scott, I think it was on TWMP Daily one day, like nudged Crystal about it. And then Crystal had to acknowledge that we were the ones that got it fixed. So shout out to both Scott and Crystal.
And who was the one that broke that story, John, in the entire state of Missouri? Who's the one that broke that story?
Brad Hildebrand.
Yeah, it was me.
You sent me a picture of it.
Right.
And then I looked at it and I'm like, they spelled their name wrong.
I know. But it was a terrible billboard. It was just
it was not good.
It was, besides spelling her name wrong, it was like, okay, I don't quite get what they're saying with that billboard. You know, billboards.
Well, you know what? It was kind of like a geriatric woman not being able to name the speakers that were coming to her event, and instead reading a script when she came on Brad's show. Brad, we're over that.
I'm looking at my security cameras out in the parking lot, and once again, Nina is out there slashing my tires. I just got a new set.
And you know what?
What?
Thankfully, her name is not Nina, because as she corrected you on the air, her name is Nina.
It's Nina. I know Nina Needleman and Nina D'Angelo. They both spell their name the same way. But
you could just call her Ben Baker, though. Just call her Ben Baker.
Okay, we have to take a break.